After a 4-day pit stop on the tiny island of Fernando de Noronha, it is time for us to take to the open ocean once more. From here we will cross the equator back into the northern hemisphere and surf the ocean currents as we sail 1,300 miles non-stop to French Guiana on the continent of South America. Cheers! Welcome to the Northern Hemisphere again.
Cheers!
We are Matanami. We have spent the last 6 years sailing our 37-foot sailboat Florence around the world. In that time we have crossed 3 oceans. Over 36,000 miles have passed under our keel, and we are now closing in on our goal, to complete our circumnavigation.
Before us lies the Atlantic Ocean, which we will now cross twice in order to reach the shores of England once more.
Fernando's been a great place to stop. We are really glad that we did stay here. We've had a nice 4 days break from the passage, but it's time for us to move on. And it's costing us £65 a day just to anchor here. So although it's very nice to be here, it's definitely time for us to get moving and to make some progress towards the Caribbean.
Just looking at the route planning to sail from here in Fernando de Noronha to French Guiana on the South American coast, and it's a little bit more interesting than the route planning for sailing from St Helena to here, which we've just done, because when we did that we just put a waypoint where we are here and pretty much sailed straight to where we wanted to go. But sailing to French Guiana, we've got a couple of other major features that we need to get around. The biggest one of those is the Guiana current, and it runs up to 4 knots along the coast of South America. And because Florence's maximum boat speed is around 7.2, 7.4 knots, if we can add 3 or 4 knots of current onto that, it's going to make a massive difference, more than going anywhere else trying to get better wind. So really we're just going to be hunting that current and trying to stay in the best of it to make the best speed, just like we did when we were sailing down the coast of South Africa. So for this trip I've actually set a number of waypoints so that we follow that current along the coast. From a wind point of view, it's also slightly more complex. When we sailed from St Helena to here, again we were just in trade winds, which were pretty much blowing the same direction the entire time we were sailing. And now we're going to go into a bit of a more varied situation. So we'll be in trade winds to start with, and then we're going to get up into more doldrums-like conditions as we approach the equator, or actually just past the equator. So we're expecting the winds to go very light, become very squally, have some thunderstorms around, but that's not something you can really predict in the route planning. That's just something you have to deal with when you get there.
The main challenges for this next voyage are crossing the equator because of the doldrums. That is often very challenging, as Matt's talked about with the weather. And the second is that we also are going to be passing the Amazon basin. So it's recommended that you stay 150 miles offshore of that area because of the number of logs and other debris that just get washed out to sea, which are really hazardous for small boats like us. I don't think we're going to have the nice settled conditions on the passage that we had coming here. I think this is going to be much more squally, and we're going to struggle to get enough sleep between the two of us. So although I'm kind of ready to move on and looking forward to going sailing again, I'm also kind of looking forward to arriving in French Guiana, having this passage behind us.
We made friends with the crew of this 50-foot catamaran back in St Helena and enjoyed a beer or two with them here on Fernando as well. It is very easy to make friends with other sailors on the main ocean cruising routes. We have a lot in common, facing the elements to cross the ocean, and that creates an instant camaraderie. These guys will be leaving just behind us and sailing a very similar route to make the most of the Guiana current. Although they will be doing it in far more comfort, with 5 of them to share watches, air conditioning, a dishwasher, a washing machine and hot freshwater showers. We expect them to come speeding past us very soon.
We're just sailing along in the lee of the island, which means that we are protected from the wind and also the ocean swell. It's just absolutely gorgeous. We're going to enjoy it while it lasts because it's definitely not going to be this calm out there.
Well, it's been a beautiful first day sailing. It's been a little bit up and down the breeze. A couple of times we had the spinnaker almost ready to go up. In fact, we had it here in the cockpit and we've got all the lines rigged for it. As the breeze dropped off and we were down to like 4 knots, but then each time we waited about half an hour and then it kind of picked up again, and it's just picked up again now. We're actually doing 8 knots right this minute, so as soon as I finish talking to you, I'm going to be putting a reef in that Genoa. Woohoo! Day 2, it's a bit more of a wild ride today. Overnight the breeze has picked up to over 20 knots and the sea state has obviously picked up, as you can see, but we've been rocketing along really fast. It's all good. Florence is really nicely balanced. We've got 2 reefs in the mainsail, 2 reefs in Tuna, and the Aries is coping with everything nicely, and we're making rapid progress towards that current off the coast of South America. About 70 miles in front of us now. Once we get to that, we should have a real boost. But right now we're doing 7 knots. Once we hit that, we'll be doing 9 knots. It's 5 o'clock in the morning on our second night at sea, and we've reached the Guiana current, or the current that runs along the coast of South America. So our boat speeds have rocketed up. We've gone from doing 7 knots to doing 9 knots surfing down the waves, even 10 knots at times. So we're making really good progress, but there's some bigger waves here, so we're getting thrown around a little bit, which is making it a little bit difficult to sleep. But not much we can do about that. There's not too much wind, about 25, 28 knots of wind. We've got all 3 reefs in the mainsail and a couple of reefs in the Genoa. But yeah, we're making massive gains now. We've got this current with us.
We've been really tired over the last couple of days, so it's important that we eat well and keep our energy up.
Oh, thank you very much. Looks good.
We've been trying to work out how many days we've been at sea. It's It's either 3 or 4, but neither of us are really sure. The last couple of days have been quite rough. We've been thrown around quite a lot because there's been a bit of a cross swell, and we had, I'd say, sort of 25-30 knots for a lot of the time. So it's taken us a little bit longer to get used to the routine of passage than it normally would. Normally we're pretty good after like 2 or 3 days. We've both been like zombies for the last couple of days. We've just been struggling to get enough sleep, and so any time that we've not been on watch, we've been down below trying to sleep, so we've not really seen much of each other. But the sailing now is absolutely gorgeous. The sea state has eased off, the wind's eased. We're still making really good progress because we're still in the current. We haven't got quite as much as we had before, but we're still making around 8 knots, which I can't really complain about.
Welcome to the Northern Hemisphere!
Yeah, rum for breakfast!
Rum for breakfast!
We just crossed the equator for the 4th time in this voyage. Well, we've also crossed it several times when we were in Indonesia because we were stuck very close to the equator, but we're not counting that. So we actually crossed the equator at some point in the night on Matt's night watch, but he didn't realise. So we're celebrating now instead.
I went down after my night watch, and then just as I went into bed, I said to Amy, can you just check our position? And we were like just north of the equator, so oh well. But it was too early then, 5 o'clock in the morning.
2 degrees north of the equator.
5 o'clock in the morning is too early for rum.
Thank you. Oh dear. I'm not sure this really counts as breakfast because I'm going to go to bed as soon as we've had lunch.
Oh, I need to
Just
get
come
some
to the
to
end of
as
my
well.
watch. The rum rations have got a bit more generous the further around the world we've gone.
Right, cheers, welcome to the Northern Hemisphere again.
Cheers.
Thank you, Neptune, for a safe passage across the South Atlantic. I don't actually think we've broken anything, touch wood, we're not quite there yet. But, and then we've got another passage to go across the North Atlantic next year. So, cheers Neptune, thank you.
Is that a lot of rum?
Neptune gets a good rum ration too. So as the breeze is easing this morning, we're starting to think about increasing the amount of sail area we've got up. So we're going to start off by shaking a reef out the mainsail, and then we'll see how that goes. It's kind of the right angle for the spinnaker, but it's kind of on the verge of wind speed for the spinnaker. Do we need it? Can we go the right speed with the genoa? We'll go very, very fast with the spinnaker, it's just whether or not we need it. But we'll start by shaking the reef out the mainsail. So reef the genoa down, so we can round up onto it, onto the breeze to shake the reef out the main.
Just taking us off the area so that I can bring us up into the wind and hand steer through this.
Uncleat the preventer, so the main will actually come in. Lay out the reef lines so that they'll run freely. Ready to round up.
We have to head up into the wind to take the pressure out of the mainsail so that we can winch it further up the mast and spread more sail.
Okay, that's us up.
So,
You can go around that.
put us back on the Aries.
With the reef shaken out of the mainsail and sailing with the wind on Florence's aft quarter, we decided that rather than go for the spinnaker, we would be plenty fast enough if we just added the staysail instead. On this angle, the staysail gives us an extra half knot of boat speed. Fish on?
Fish on! It's, whatever it is, it's fighting.
There we are! A tuna! I think. We're not sure what grade. Is it a bonito, do you think?
Yeah.
Or a skipjack?
Bonito or skipjack?
Not the best grade tuna, but still a tuna just before dinner time, which is good timing.
We've got a good method of processing fish between us now. Matt tends to get the fish on board, kill it and then gut it, because I really don't like doing that bit. And then I tend to debone it, skin it and cook it, because he doesn't really like doing that bit.
And because you're a lot better at it than I am.
It's a slightly more fishy tuna than something like yellowfin, so it's not as nice to have it raw or sashimi. So we're just going to pan fry it in some oil and a bit of lemon juice. We've got some couscous, obviously the tuna, some salsa, and other than the fish, the only other fresh thing that we have is a little bit of lemon.
Thank you very much. Start the day with rum and finish with fresh fish. It's not bad, is it?
And we're still doing 9 or 10 knots.
Next time, we continue on through the doldrums to make landfall on mainland South America. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next episode. We release a video every 2 weeks.
If you'd like to find out more about behind the scenes on Florence, track our progress across the oceans in real time, find out where we are right now, or ask us pretty much anything, then please head over to our Patreon site and join the crew. We would like to thank everyone who supports us to make these videos possible, and a special thank you to our star patrons.